Hello, everyone, and welcome to the jungle. We are part of the Riverfront Media Network, brought to you by the wonderful folks over at Blue Wire. I am Tim Daniel. Joining me this week is Owen Timmerding. And Owen, pressure is the theme of this week's episode.
It's we had comments made by
Lots of
executives and
comments.
by people that are influential on the team. So we got some stuff to talk about.
It was just really funny because so the idea behind the title is that last night we showed our daughter in concert for the first time.
Hmm.
And so the song has been stuck in my head. And so I was like, it's
Totally.
kind of fitting for what's going on in Bengals land right now. And I listened to basically everything Rapine put out this past week on Say
Hmm.
Bengals Talk to kind of get an idea of it and kind of just try to craft my own opinion on things like that. So, yeah, we're going to get to that. We're going to talk about maybe a potential position need, some guys that are floating around the trade market to see if that might be a conversation that we should be having, and more, hopefully. So, Owen, Duke Tobin was down at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama this week, watching Riley Leonard, his future backup quarterback. Um,
Totally.
yeah, and he looked pretty good actually. He did look pretty
Yeah.
decent, I gotta say. Um, but had a nice conversation with Kelsey Conway of Cincinnati.com. A couple comments he made there that I'm genuinely curious your thoughts on. So, kind of talked about like there's they have a game plan in mind for Jamar, and they're kind of going to build off of the conversations that ended last year, right around when the season started. So hopefully that means no lock in this year.
Yeah.
And then was that that's not what he called it. He called it a hold in. Sorry,
Hmm.
not a lock in. He mentioned that they would like to keep T, and then more or less said that Trey Hendrickson has earned a pay raise, and we will give that to him. But basically, in a roundabout way, said like we're not going to make him as the highest paid player at his position in the league. Um, a lot of people have kind of taken this a couple different ways. So I'm curious where you're at with this. So my thought process on it was like, okay, they have a plan and they know that there's going to be some discussions. They know that this is not going to be super easy. They're trying to do something that no one else really in the league is doing right now.
Hmm.
They know the pressure that's on them for this offseason to keep their talent in while also improving the roster. And it seems like they're all for it. So I'm really on this fence. I'm on the side of I'm going to be optimistic, and I know who we're talking about here when I say that I'm going to be optimistic. I'm on the side of I think that they are going to do everything they possibly can to keep these guys in house. I fully believe T's going to get tagged because they don't want him to go to free agency because they don't want New England or Washington to sweep in and be like, we got these Drake Mays, we got this Jaden Daniels. This could be really fun.
Hmm.
I fully believe the reason he switched agents to have the same agent as Jamar is to get this deal done and stay in Cincinnati. But yeah, there is a lot to unpack from that. And then of course there's the Joe Burrow comments where he was strictly asked about Jamar and everything he did, and made sure to make mention that we have plenty of guys who are doing all the who are really helping us succeed. And like, you know what, man? Maybe this is the NBA fan of me talking,
Yeah.
but I love Joe Burrow doing this. I absolutely
Oh.
love his version of the player empowerment era and him being like, look, I want to win. Let's let's get away from the typical Bengal structure of just letting really good players leave,
Hmm.
and let's change the culture. Let's make it a place where people want to stay. So I thought overall, I thought Duke Tobin, I thought he said the right things. I know a lot of people took it the opposite way. And then as far as Joe Burrow goes, I love that he's putting pressure on them. I love that he's saying, like, look, I want to win. You guys want to win. We need to win with these guys.
Well, like really, I think it's only fair for Burrow to make those comments. He's been everything and more that the Bengals have
Yeah.
wanted. He's lived up to that contract he's gotten now. He is such a locker room presence. He's basically taken a team that was it was weird to walk around in Bengals stuff and now people know like where you're from if you're wearing Joe Burrow stuff. He's an NFL's megastar. And I think he's totally right. I think the NBA is a great comparison for this because like eh, why not? Why not be that player empowerment? Force the Bengals to play their hand. And Burrow is so different than like the Bengals have to take him seriously because
Right.
it, they didn't take Carson seriously because he was kind of a locker. He wasn't really the leader that they needed, and he had his own on-field things, and he kind of didn't live up to what he was supposed to be. Dalton was kind of like he was fine, but like they weren't going to take him seriously if he was like, I need you to sign X, Y, and
Yeah.
Z contracts for me. Burrow has earned the right to do this. And it would be, in my opinion, anything less than unacceptable for the Bengals to kind of just be like, like we don't really care. It seems like they're going to make it work. The Duke Tobin stuff, I love what he said. Besides the last sentence of the Hendrickson thing, I just stop at, oh, we want to make a deal work and we're going to make it happen. Instead, he's like,
Right.
well, we want to make it happen, but like it also might not happen. So in case, just be ready. So I think that's the Bengals fan and all of us being like, here we go again. We've heard this time and time again on how the Bengals want to do stuff, but they don't put a lot of effort in. But like you said, like I respect the honesty out of Tobin being, and I there's two things I want as a fan. I want my players to be direct to an extent, and I like when my front office is very clear with what their goals are. And it kind of seems like that's what the Bengals have done, especially with what Burrow and Tobin have said in the last week.
So yes, I'm with you. I think that I do appreciate the honesty. I do have some frustrations with some of the words that came out. Like I said, I don't like that last sentence. And then his comment about something to the sense of, I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but we don't want to have multiple guys at the top of their payroll of their position.
Yeah.
And like, meanwhile, the Philadelphia Eagles are in the Super Bowl right now doing just that. So it's like, all right, man, like, the NFL is not like the Yankees or the Dodgers against the Reds. It's like, everyone's got an even playing field here. So you can make this happen. You don't want to be like the Giants who were shown on like for the world to see them letting Saquon Barkley go. And so, yeah, this is those comments there are just like, Duke. And like you said, it's like typical Bengals stuff. But I do believe that they know what's in front of them. And I do believe they know that they believe that they can make this happen. Right now they're at like 42, I think, and they can get up to a certain cap casualties, which we'll get to here in a minute. They can get to up about 90, is what the kind of idea. And so Jamar's probably going to get about, the way Rapine was saying was about 37, 38 mil. Hendrickson's probably going to be in that 20, 25 mil. And you got all these young up and coming guys who are really talented on rookie contracts. So it's going to be really interesting to see. Like I said, I don't really know any other front offices who've had to go through this before. There probably are some that I just can't think of at the moment. But it's going to be really fascinating to see how it plays out. And I fully believe that they know what it's going to take. Because do you want to be the guy that tells Joe Burrow, you are the second best quarterback in the NFL, depending on the conversation? This year was probably the best quarterback in the NFL. Hey, man, we let one of your guys go. Sorry about that. I don't think you want to have that conversation.
No. And here's an interesting thought exercise, which kind of stems from all of this. And like, we know how the Bengals have operated forever. Like, how much like leeway do we think Duke Tobin has? Like, do we think he kind of has his hands tied? If like in a perfect world, I think he would want to go out and make all these decisions. But like, do we think he's kind of he's a little handcuffed by the Browns a little bit?
Could be.
And just methods of operations. Like, it just seems silly for the Bengals to even entertain a world where they don't keep this together. It's one of those things where it makes too much sense not to do. And they can make it work. That's the whole deal, is you have to make, and we'll get to the cap casualties here in a second, you're going to have to make some tough decisions on fan favorites. But, and what you said is, I think the perfect example of what this could be is the Eagles. If they go out and win on Sunday, the Bengals got to be like, why not just go spend a bunch of money? We'll get 4 or 5, maybe good more years of this, and then like we'll figure it out from there. But go all in, do it. The Eagles are going to prove if they win, and I've kind of talked myself into them winning now on Sunday. It's like that'd be the perfect example of we went out and we said we're going to get the best talent and we're going to respect that our players that we've developed and give them what they earn, what they deserve. Like it just makes too much sense, I feel like.
Yeah, I like that. I like that there's an example like that, and they've done it the right way. I mean, Saquon Barkley dropping in their lap because the Giants are buffoons is one thing, but everything else, yeah, I completely agree with you. So brings us to our 2 viewer mail questions I want to get to before we move on, and they're both pretty on point with this current conversation we're having. First one from our good friend Sydney Price: thoughts on possibly trading Trey Hendrickson? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Unless the Browns are offering you Myles
Yeah.
Garrett, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah. We talked off cam about rating a potential Myles Garrett trade, and I think we both agreed it would be the Browns would entertain that 0.0%. I don't know. I mean, you probably pick up the phone for
It
Garrett.
will thing. Yeah.
Yeah. You definitely entertain it, but it's not going to happen.
No. No. I would prefer if they got Myles Garrett that Myles Garrett and Trey Hendrickson would be on the same team, not
That'd be
switching
the point.
sides. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be ideal. But yeah, it's highly unlikely. But I don't think that that's worth it.
Mm-mm.
Because I mean, he's the sack champion. He's got a shot at Defensive Player of the Year. He should be a Bengal for the rest of his prime, and you don't want to have him go somewhere else and beat you because of how good he is. So
Yeah.
I am on the if we're on the 0%, they're going to get Myles Garrett. I'm on the 0% they trade Trey Hendrickson.
I agree.
Yeah. And then Skylar Webker says, after Burrow's comments at the Pro Bowl, how can this ownership just not bite the bullet and sign T? That's 100% on the nail.
Yeah.
If your guy wants them, you go get him.
Yeah. And I wrote that down. I thought Burrow's, like we talked about, I love how direct he is. It's so, he's put, I don't think it's like anger. I think he's just
No.
saying like this needs to get done. He doesn't seem disgruntled yet.
Yeah.
If and like
Right.
unless something bad happens. But we're kind of towing that line, to be honest, between like disgruntled and just being like, hey, make this happen. But again, like we said, public pressure on the front office, get these deals done from Joe Burrow. You don't say no to him. It's simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm 100% with you. So let's talk a little bit real quick now about obviously there's a lot of names swirling around for potential cap casualties with this team. And it kind of brings in a deeper conversation about, okay, if we're going to make this happen, we're going to keep these guys in here particularly. Who are we going to have to be? Who's an expense basically at this point?
Mhm.
And the same names are popping up a lot, specifically on the defensive side. So we're going to kind of talk about those. And obviously, the one that probably hurts the most is probably Sam Hubbard. Not in the sense that he's the player he was, a couple years ago, even, but just local kid, Moeller, Cincinnati born and raised, and gave us one of the greatest moments in franchise history with the Hubbard yard dash.
Mhm.
And just making too much money, and it's if he's not going to take a significant pay cut, probably not going to be here. So that's one. Jermaine Pratt, obviously another big one because of his lack of play that we've seen. Alex Kappa, I think we could all say is all but gone. Anyone? I mean, besides those three, any other big ones you think we should discuss?
I think you got to think about maybe cutting ties with one of Mike Hilton and or Geno Stone. I would be very open to keeping him back on because I think I kind of liked what I saw at the end of the year for him, and I would like to give him a chance in this new defense. But I don't. I think the easiest decisions they make are Kappa seems like a no brainer. Jermaine Pratt seems like a no brainer, and then they're gonna have to do the old like it's a business kind of deal with Hubbard. I feel like.
I am the opposite on the two secondary guys. I want to keep Mike
All
Hilton.
right. I love Mike Hilton. I just don't
Yeah.
know if he just you could tell he kind of lost his step, but I think he is worth keeping around for the locker room. I'd say maybe get his deal in a better spot.
That and Al Golden, I can say this again from experience from watching him for 3 years. Is very, very good at using his nickels.
Mhm.
Really good at using his nickels to whether it's in coverage or hiding them if they're not the best coverage guy, coming down and attacking the run, which Mike Hilton's very good at. I think it's gonna be really good if they keep him. But yeah, I could certainly see Geno Stone as well. I just don't know if he's gonna be willing to be a backup. If he is, awesome. Yeah, if he is for sure, great. But if he's not, bring Xavier Watts to Cincinnati.
Mhm.
I saw recently, actually, who was it? It was he's the name that's kind of been coming out the most of the Notre Dame guys to be potential Bengals for the Al Golden carryover. But I did see a mock draft recently that had Morrison and Watts both coming to Cincinnati, and I was like,
Nice.
yes, sold, do it. Likelihood, not very high. Would it be
Negative.
incredible? Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I I don't know. I agree. I think it's worth if these guys want to stick around, getting a new look, especially those corners, the secondary. I agree. I think we're both on the same page with the no brainer. Like Kappa's, he
Gone.
never really improved after that first season, and then he was hurt, and then but in the same thing about like Jermaine Pratt kind of seems like a Lou Anarumo guy to his core, and
Yeah,
that kind of seems like it's just not really going to work, and he's lost a step too. I just keep coming back to this Sam Hubbard debacle. He's just not been good the
yeah,
last 2 years, and it stinks because he was really a bright spot on those terrible Bengals teams from
for sure.
2019 to 21, and he was a core of this. He was in the Super Bowl core, and it's tough and fan favorite. Does so much for the community. Everyone loves him, but again, it's just he's just not worth his price tag, and that just stinks.
It does stink because I don't think they won the AFC Championship game in Kansas City without him
No,
because he was really good in the second half and overtime. I mean, he
yeah.
made a ton of plays.
You can make the
Hey,
argument he was even better in that second AFC Championship game
yeah, you're right.
that they lost. Yeah.
Yeah, Joseph Osai kind of coming on at the end of the year probably did not help his chances.
No,
So,
no.
but yeah, I would love if Hubbard came for 1 point, 2.5 or so, but I feel like he would take that as an insult, and I understand that.
Mhm.
I can't
I
blame him
did
for
too.
feeling that way. Um, on some also not so good news. So further news comes out that Erick All has a setback from his ACL tear and will not be on the active roster next year. So bad for the injury, man. Not just the football side of things, but just like the person. That
Mhm.
sucks. That sucks so much because yeah, he was really promising, and I was really excited to see what he was going to look like in the offense next year. But also the fact that you don't know when you're going to have him play football again. It seems like they're confident that he'll be ready for the 26th season, but that's not promised obviously by any means.
No.
What was kind of like your takeaway from this? And I do kind of want to talk about the tight end situation as a whole with this as well.
I feel terrible for him. Like we said, I loved what he did in the offense. He's kind of like he could block great. He
Mhm.
wasn't he could run really well, and I think he kind of just fit into the way the Bengals offensive scheme wanted to work. Like you said, it just kind of stinks that seems like the Bengals always just getting this terrible tight end luck with injuries that they
Yeah.
draft that they think that just don't doesn't work out because they're just always hurt. I just my only worry is that it's hard to come back from basically 2 years of no football, especially on
Oh
an
yeah.
ACL tear, and the conditioning that comes with it, and just 2 years of chemistry and simple things like that. I mean, he'll be around, but it just kinda stinks that the first basically 2.5 years of his NFL career are gone because of a freak little injury on a great play that he made, which makes it even worse.
That part does suck even harder. Yeah,
Yeah.
that really stinks. So, I guess that puts we've been talking about the Higgins and the Hendricksons and the Chases. Um, I feel like this makes Mike Gesicki even more valuable to stay. I really feel like
Totally.
this kind of yeah. I feel like he's another guy you got to keep in house. If it's just another 1 year deal, that's fine.
Mhm.
But I feel like they got to keep him in. And then that brings the other question. And so Tanner Hudson obviously has had some really nice moments. I thought he was really good during the win streak. Um, do they go to the tight end in the draft to kind of
Well,
solidify the room, or do they kind of go with the keep Gesicki, go Hudson, and go Sample?
I just don't know if I like the idea of maybe potentially taking a first round tight end, especially if Gasecki doesn't resign. I think the odds are probably more in our favor that he takes another team friendly deal where he kind of just feels like he fits a part of this puzzle that the Bengals have assembled. And I think there should be a strong emphasis on resigning Gasecki so we can have the same starting star tight end on the team. Like we've since the Super Bowl run, we've had Uzama, Hurst, who's like Irv Smith, and now like it's four guys. They're all the same kind of dude, but it makes more sense to me to keep the same dude and just kind of maybe have Gasecki in the similar role what he did last year because I thought he was fantastic,
I did too.
especially in the back half of the season.
Yeah, I did too. I really want to keep him in house. I think he's perfect for how the Bengals offense runs with strictly passing the ball. What 70% of the time. Um, in that, and having him as an option with the wide receivers, and then also having Chase Brown to kind of spread the offense out and run that, and also the big thing too, like you said, is they run a lot of 12 formation. They run a lot of
Mhm.
having both your tight ends out there. So, um, yeah, I think that with this news, you got to keep him in house. You got to find a way.
And he's 29. You get a little durability with your tight ends, especially if they've made it this far without having a serious injury. I was just looking it up. I mean, Zach Ertz had a great year, and he's 34, and he just
Yeah,
kind of fit the mold of that Commanders team. I From everything I've heard, it seems like Gesicki is a great fit. He wants to come back, and he's just not going to command that much money to
yeah.
where it should be a quick decision. If both sides want to make it work, then let's make it happen.
Yeah, I 100% agree, man. All right, so I guess we will go ahead and wrap here. You already mentioned it. You've talked yourself into on the Super Bowl this weekend, Kansas City, Philadelphia. You have said you've talked yourself into the Eagles winning. I also have talked myself into the Eagles winning. I just feel like they've played better football throughout the stretch of the year.
Mhm.
I know Kansas City only lost 2 games, one technically if you count the fact they sat all their guys. But I know Kansas City, this is what they do. They go to the Super Bowl and they win. But big picture, I think overall Philadelphia's just a better team. And
I agree.
yeah, there's Mahomes, there's Kelsey, and there's they have all those dudes, but Philadelphia's got dudes everywhere. And yeah, Mahomes is better than Hurts, obviously. But I don't know if Kansas City really has a guy that can game plan around Saquon Barkley. So
Mm-mm.
I think the Eagles win. I honestly won't be watching it whatsoever because I don't care when the Bengals aren't playing. But yeah, I'm going Philly. Fly Eagles fly.
I think that's a good choice. Again, it's hard to pick against Kansas City in the Super Bowl just because it was hard always to pick against those Patriots teams.
Mhm.
I I love the idea of the Chiefs winning again solely because I I think it'd be dumb if Hertz kind of gets carried to a Super Bowl by by uh by his defense and Saquon Barkley and Burrow doesn't have one. Burrow is, in my opinion, clearly better than Jalen Hurts as well.
Yeah, very long
So,
shot.
and that's just selfish by me, kind of being like, oh, it'd be nice if he still had zero and Burrow also didn't have any, and maybe Burrow can nab one next year. Again, Eagles defense is so good. Saquon Barkley is is just an incredible talent. I think the receivers on the Eagles are better. I think their offensive line is better. I think their defensive line is a little bit better. And I also just think they're due. It's just one of those things like it seems like the Eagles are kind of a frustrating matchup for Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm 1,000% with you, man. So, hey, I think with that being said, we can go and wrap up this edition of Welcome to the Jungle. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Next week, we really get to finally talk real off-season stuff. I mean, it really is a full-on, game plan for 25 season. So I am really excited for next week. But we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you are just checking us out here for the first time, whether it's on YouTube or your podcast app of choice, please make sure to give us a nice solid subscription or 5-star review. It goes a long way to help us out. We'll be back next week on behalf of Owen Timmington. This is Tim Daniel. Owen Timmerding. Holy crap. This is Tim Daniel. Have a good night, everybody.